something going on here, basically.
What's happening now is what matters.
Surrender is the key.
I've been looking at the subject of 2012 for the last, over 25 years. The calendars, the visions, the prophecies, and the theories that people have put forward to explain what they think is happening. I look at their sources and try and find a pattern that connects up all these various perspectives.
I take people to sacred sites because I think it's very important for people to get to the vibrational epicenters of this planet, to know the planet.
My awareness of this spiritual awakening in 2012 really kicked off several years ago around the incidents leading up to and during a car crash. And during the car crash I was caused to think that I would certainly die. And at that moment that precipitated what I can only describe as total inner surrender. It was like everything that I was attached to, everything that I'd been identified with, that I loved even, I felt that just being stripped away from me. You know, in those moments it just didn't matter at all. You know, the job, the house, the bills, the family, the children, they just didn't matter. What could they affect that moment? They couldn't. And so as I'm letting go, it's as if somebody is sat on top of me with a big bucket of love and just pouring it down. And I'm just feeling wave upon wave flowing through me. And suddenly, I just find myself in multiple planes of reality. It's like I'm in this plane, just having this normal, well, you know, it's in a car crash, but fairly normal kind of existence. And then I'm in a higher plane where I can see and appreciate everything that is happening and understand the meaning of it. Understanding that every single moment in our lives has a deeper purpose, a deeper meaning. And that if we just take stock for a moment and look, we can see and we can understand what that moment is telling us.
Western society barely looks at our immortality. The Eastern religions and civilizations, the Tibetans, the ancient Egyptians, the Mayans, they spent their lives planning for their passage, which they called transition and not death. Western society, so scary. Don't want to talk about it.
I now know of 6 people who've had near-death experiences who've come back talking about the year 2012. And the most famous of these is Daniel Brinkley. Now, he was on the phone in 1975 when a lightning bolt hit the telephone line and threw him physically up to the ceiling of the room, and then he was out of his body until a point in the ambulance where his heart stopped beating, and then he started, well, officially he was dead for the next 28 minutes until they revived him. During those 28 minutes he had an experience which is a classic near-death experience. He went down a tunnel into a very bright light. He was confronted by a very bright silvery being, and then he had a life recall experience. And this is a self-judgment process, and about 38% of people who have near-death experiences have reported going through this exact same experience, where they re-experience all the events in their life where they affected anybody else, where they actually gave other people pain and sorrow, or they gave them happiness or joy. And Brinkley had been in the Marines, and he'd actually killed people, so he had to confront those feelings of remorse, not just from himself, but he saw it from the positions of the other people. He felt their pain, he felt the grief of their relatives, he felt the joy he'd given people as well. He then went on to a crystal city, which is another thing that several people have described on the other side, And he was then confronted by 12 of these beings surrounding a 13th, and he thought they had something to do with the zodiac. Each of these beings in turn came up to him with a kind of TV screen and showed him scenes from the future. Major world events, headline events such as the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Iraq War, the Chernobyl incident. And around 2012, he said between 2011 and 2012 there would be a climax of Earth changes. He said between 2012 and 2014 there would be a geomagnetic reversal, switch of the Earth's magnetic poles, and that this would be an evolutionary opportunity for mankind.
And some people do say, there have always been changes, what's all this fuss about? So I would like to say that, yes, it's true, there have always been changes. That's the nature of life, of existence, is movement and cyclical energies. But many of us believe that this is a huge shift energetically for many reasons. For starters, the Mayan calendar closes at 2012, December 21st, 2012. And so there's quite a fuss about this, and it's really in the psyche of people, in the collective consciousness and unconsciousness, there is a huge concern about what this means, and lots of propaganda about the apocalyptic scenario.
The first question was, what did the Maya actually say about it themselves? And until 2006, there were very few people who knew that there is an inscription from the classic era that mentions 2012. But a lot of anthropologists and other Mayanists were responding on discussion groups on the internet to questions about this by saying that the Maya knew nothing about this. There's no sign they were interested in it at all. And then in 2006, it became apparent that there is one inscription from a site called Tortuguero, monument number 6, and it says, at the end of the 13th Bacton, which we would call 21st December 2012, which is the winter solstice, it says then it will happen. Where this 9-god group called Bolognocti will, it says there will be darkness, and then the gods will return or descend to the. It doesn't. You can't complete that translation because the final glyph is damaged.
When we talk about the Mayans, what I would like to talk about is the galactic Mayans. They were absolutely connected to some sort of extra-dimensional information, and their knowledge, complete knowledge of all the celestial movements, and their bringing through to us information about this planet from other stellar sources. And the Mayans say that the messages that we get through the calendar are, to me, time ending, the end of a huge cycle, the beginning of a 5th sun. Now, some people say that the Mayans actually said the calendar closes and that is the end. But I am of the belief that the Mayans were telling us the next dimension, there is no time, not as you know it.
John Major Jenkins is one of the guy who's made the most breakthroughs in deciphering why the Maya chose winter solstice in the year we call 2012 as the end point for their current 5,000-year cycle. And it seems that encoded into the Maya mythology and into their ball games and into their king accession rites, the answer is that they are looking at a certain astronomical alignment, which Jenkins calls galactic alignment. It's a time when the winter solstice sun conjuncts with the galactic plane. It conjuncts. The Maya would have seen it as the sun entering what we call the dark rift. They called it Xibalba B, which means the road to the underworld. As you look at the Milky Way, there's a central bulge with a dark patch. They saw that as the mouth of the crocodile, or the mouth of the jaguar toad, or the mouth of the snake, or even the birth canal of the mother. And they saw the sun emerging from this dark rift or this birth canal as a sort of rebirth of the sun. That's why it was seen. This end point is also a creation point. It's the same thing that happened to them 5,125 years ago. At the beginning of the current cycle was the beginning of the current creation.
The Mayans are one of many great civilizations that have brought to us the knowledge of the ancients, which I believe were also civilizations that had contact with stellar beings. Imprints from Atlantis, perhaps. Imprint from stars, from stellar beings, or both. So we have the Tibetans. We have similarities in these cultures. The Mayans, the Egyptians, even the ancient Chinese, where we were shown unquestionably that they had contact from some source about Earth events and galactic events. How do we know this about the Mayans? Well, it's in their hieroglyphs.
And what's really powerful about the Mayans, as with many other indigenous cultures, ancient cultures like the Aborigines, like the Native Americans, like the Tibetans, is that these people were tuned into the natural flow of the universe. When we're tuned in, we realize that nothing happens by chance. Everything is interconnected. There is a flow. And therefore, we're going to witness in our lives all of the time synchronicity. Synchronicity. That, that at a certain time, when the Earth comes into alignment with the galactic center, when the procession of the equinoxes is complete, that is going to coincide with a shift in consciousness of Gaia herself. Or should I say, it's the other way around. The shift of consciousness is causing the other events to take place. And because these people were tuned into the consciousness in the way humanity currently has not been, they're able to sense and pick up and feel these things and predict.
People are becoming highly aware. The planet is at crisis point. And so in darkness, in the abuse of the planet, when you understand that everything is a balancing act, even this extraordinary abuse of the planet is waking people up to what they can do as individuals and communities to heal the planet.
Things like the credit crunch. To me, the credit crunch was about a lower vibrational harmony being realized by a lot of people, that we can't continue to plunder the earth and its natural resources without some kind of impact. We can't live on borrowed money and borrowed time forever. And, that incongruency is going to come home to roost. And suddenly, as more people are awakening, we realize how this is totally unsustainable.
Oh my God, how far we've removed ourselves. When was the last time someone took off their shoes and walked through the forest? In the old days and in other civilizations, and even now where still the indigenous people are still connected. The idea of walking barefoot through a forest, it's like, you must be kidding. There might be glass. There might be syringes. We've become so detached from the earth. There are a lot of people that are completely asleep on this planet. Just as there are so many people, I like to emphasize, that are waking up. So the people that are really asleep are completely mesmerized by sex, sex and rock and roll, or utter fear and despair, depression. There's a lot going on in the media with deliberately, in my opinion, that is,